My belief is that students should leave this place knowing how to do things. And that's different from knowing that other people know how to do those things. So it's easy to teach a course where you tell people about particular techniques, particular results, or a field in a superficial way without making them learn how to do it themselves. And I've always believed that you need to learn how to do it yourself. So that probably, it's fair to say, has made my labs a bit more demanding than some other people's labs. But the motivation has always been to make sure that when people get out, they could actually do some of these things themselves. And that's true at both undergrad and postgrad level. Everything we do involves interaction with people, one way or another. It might be via a computer interface, but that means that psychology has application to all of those interactions. I see it as really central to understanding our part in the world, because we're a biological machine. We're trained through our social interactions, but that sets limits on what we can and can't do, or what we will and won't do. And understanding the processes that lead to that development and the limitations on us allows us to design the environment around us. It allows us to think about how you would develop a government policy so that people might actually do what you want them to do. So there's just this huge range of applications that will always be there as long as people are the focus. And so I think psychology has a huge amount to offer, whether you're working as a barista or whether you're working as an MP trying to change policy, or a researcher trying to solve some problem and then get it implemented after you've found the result. I think the climate change people would tell you that that's often a very big step. Well, there's been a huge change in technology. When I started, there were overhead projectors and blackboards, then the very trendy whiteboards. When I was head of school here in 1999 through to 2002, I remember having a talk with staff in one of the staff meetings saying, it's really time for us all to move on to using PowerPoint so that we could have electronic displays in our lectures and distribute materials more easily. So there are those kind of technology, which it seems unbelievable that you would do a lecture without PowerPoint these days, but those have changed during my career. And the other thing that happened, computerization. When I first started, you did your stats by filling in cards, and then you took it to the computer center and they ran those cards through the machine to do your analysis, and you got it back a bit later. And it wasn't until I was in my honours year when the first computer arrived in the University of Tasmania Psychology School. So there's been this enormous technological change. For the teaching side of it, I think the other really big change is in the size of the classes that people now teach. On the other extreme in Oxford, when I gave tutorials, I had to get special permission to have a second person in the tutorial because they were meant to be one-to-one. Certainly in my undergraduate days, tutorial sizes were 6 to 10. And universities now, within Australia at least, typically have much larger classes than that. We don't really get to do any small group teaching. I think that's very sad because it's at its best an interaction between a teacher and a student, and you do that best in small groups. It's very hard in large groups to do that. It's much better in large groups when you're all in the same room. I found teaching online to be a fairly soulless thing to do. You don't get much interaction, meaningful interaction, and people are often reluctant to put their hand up to say that they have problems. And it's when students put their hands up to say they have problems that you can really help and move things along. So I miss that more personal interaction, and believe that will change because it works so much better. But it will take some time, I think. There are lots of them. Let me think. Most memorable. The kind of most spectacularly timed one was in an undergraduate lecture on the sense of smell. And halfway through this lecture, this was in the days of overhead projectors, and halfway through the lecture I said, some people are anosmic, and including me, I don't smell things. And a woman in the second row put her hand up and said, "Excuse me, does that mean you don't know that the overhead projector is about to catch on fire?" Which I didn't know, but there was this acrid smell throughout the whole lecture theatre that I was blissfully unaware of. That was a great learning experience for the students. They all wrote about it in the exam paper question on olfaction, how dangerous it was not to be able to smell things. So that was, in terms of timing, that was very good. Other events, the real highlights in teaching are when students suddenly click and they understand what's going on and they get the bug and enthusiasm to want to know more. And that's fortunately happened a lot of times on the way through. But each time it's exciting to see it. Somebody actually, oh, well, that's really interesting, and off they go. Yes, look, I think it's changed over time. Try and teach things that you're passionate about, because that energy and commitment carries the students with it. So you need to be on top of your topic, and if you can be teaching things that you are research active in, that's easier. Now, there are some incredibly talented teachers that we've had in this place over the years who can do that in a broad range of topics, and they only ever do that by mastering those topics in the background. That may not be what they're doing research on, but they work hard to be really on top of it and know what's going on. I think the critical thing is also to try and know the audience and to make sure the audience is clear on what you're trying to do for them. So often in lectures, people come in, they'll take notes and they go away. The ones who get the most out of it often hang around and ask questions later, and that's easy when you're all in the lecture theatre. But the more you engage with it, the better things get entrenched, and that's basic psychological knowledge, but it's true as well. And so the more ways we can find for people to interact with information that we're presenting, the better they will learn. But I think it goes back to my philosophy. I think you do have to make clear to people, if you're teaching them how to do things, that you expect them to actually do it and practice it and get on top of it. And so if you can organise your teaching so that that's part of it, in my view, it goes better and tends to be more engaging and more rewarding. I found myself that was quite difficult to do online over the last few COVID years. And so I'm hoping that we won't get carried away and think online teaching is a sensible solution to having lots of students.